My name's Jade. Welcome back to my channel. For those of you that are new here, I'm a homeschooling mama of 3. My children are 2, 5, and 9 years old, and we're finishing up our 5th year of homeschooling. One of the questions that I've been asked a few times is about how I do subjects where everyone's learning together and how I get all of those subjects in. I think sometimes when people hear like these are all the things that we do, I mean, not just from me, but from anyone that homeschools, sometimes the question's like, how in the world do you fit all that in? I do not do all of the things every day, first of all. The things that we do every day are language arts and math one-on-one or pretty much every school day. Those things, I always make sure to try to get in. But morning time is when I do the shared subjects that my 5-year-old and my 9-year-old both do. Occasionally the 2-year-old's involved if I'm reading a picture book and she pays attention, but obviously she's not, required to join us. So the way I've mentioned this a little bit before, but I'm going to touch on it in a little more detail. So the subjects that we do together, I have a list that I keep on a board, and it just has, all the things that I like to get into morning time. And if you're just getting started, I wouldn't, especially with elementary aged kids, I wouldn't try to pack that list with a million different things, because I think it's helpful to trim it down in the very beginning, and then you can always add to it and expand on it when you feel like, oh, I'd like to add this, to our morning time together. But you certainly don't need to start with 15 things or anything like that. I don't even do 15 things. But I make a list and I loosely stick to that, as far as like, I don't want to say loosely exactly, but I pay attention to the list, but I'm not so stuck on it that I can't ever alter it. So, like for instance, if I'm getting a late start, or we've had just kind of a rocky morning for whatever reason, maybe someone didn't get a lot of sleep or, something like that. And if I look up there and the next thing on the list is something that I'm like, oh, it says science, but I know the next thing in science is like a science experiment or making a model of some sort, and I just know that it's going to like derail our morning, then I might skip over it and go to the next thing. So I do look at the list, I do let it guide me, but it's not like set in stone so tightly that I don't ever stray from it. Just that doesn't work for me. I can't operate like that with no flexibility. But I will move down the list, and I usually get in 2 to 3 things from the list each morning time. And that how many things we get through just depends on our morning. Some of the things only might only take me 5 minutes. Some of them might take 30 minutes, 45 minutes. So depending on, and I try to have like something I know takes longer and then something that is a shorter thing after it. So I have my list like that set up. That way I can do one longer thing and maybe 2 short things if I have the time, or maybe just one longer thing and 1 short thing. But I kind of set my list up like that, and I just go down the list. So and I should have shared the exact list, but anyway, so if I look at it and I'm like, okay, history's next, I'm gonna do a history lesson today, and then the next thing on the list is maybe I'm trying to think what else on my list, read a biography. So I might do those 2 things, and then looking at the clock and I'm like, okay, I know we need to be moving on to individual subjects so that I can finish up by lunchtime. My goal is always to finish by lunch. So I'll do just those 2 things, say, that day. Well, the next day, when it's morning time again, I look up and I see, okay, we did this. The 3rd thing on the list is science. So I get out the science, we do a science lesson together, and then I move to the next thing on the list. And so I'm just constantly going down that list. So that way I'm able to get through, most weeks I can get through everything once. and maybe some things twice, depending on the week and just that kind of thing. So that's how I do it. And also, if you've got different ages of kids, you might be wondering how that works as far as one kid can read and one kid can't read yet, or is just learning to read, or one kid, can write and complete sentences and the other is not there yet. You just have to alter things a little bit for different ages, and also you don't have the same expectations for all of your children. Obviously, when we do our science unit, I introduce the vocabulary that goes along with our science unit, which I might share science with you one day, to give you an idea. We use the good and the beautiful for science, so if that would be helpful, let me know. But anyway, I introduce vocabulary words, and we learn about different, since we're doing the body, we do different body systems and, the organs and how they work together and that kind of thing. But the goal is not for me, for my kids, my goal is not I want them to memorize every single aspect of this and they're going to be tested and they must know it all. That's totally not my goal. The goal is just to whet their appetite, to get them, interested in it, learning a little bit about it. I don't care if they have every single vocabulary word memorized. And I don't expect that my 5-year-old is going to grasp everything in the same way that my 9-year-old will. I mean, they're not going to have the exact same takeaway from it, but that doesn't mean that they're both not taking something away from it. So that's one thing, is just don't have the same expectations for all of your children. Even if they're the same age, don't have the exact same expectation, because they're not going to be identical. So that's one thing. And then you can alter things to fit the needs of your child. Like, for instance, at the end of each body system, there's a page that we do that's just it'll have a picture of, when we did the skeletal system, it'll have a picture of the skeleton, and they can color or not color if they want. And then there's a little block to the side where they have notes and they can just write what they learned. Well, my 9-year-old can write complete sentences, and he might ask how to spell certain words, or look back in a book to see how to spell a certain word. He can write the full sentences. My 5-year-old obviously is not going to be able to do that, quite yet. She's learning to write. So she will usually just tell me what to write, and I'll write it for her. Or sometimes she wants to do it on her own, and she wants me to spell every single letter of every single word. So sometimes we do that. But I just adjust the assignment to the child. There's times where I'll have my son write something, and my daughter, I'll say, draw a picture of it instead. So you can easily kind of do that for most lessons. So that's how I kind of, work with both ages, even in a subject that, might be a little tougher for a 5-year-old. And I would say too, think about your own kid, and their ability to sit still for a long period of time. If you have a 5-year-old or 4-year-old, preschool or kindergarten, first grade, in that range, especially, if their attention span is language arts and math and writing, then just do those things. And I wouldn't require a 5-year-old to even be involved in the science and history and things like that if I knew that it was beyond, I was pushing them beyond what they were really going to be able to do well. If morning time takes all of the amount of patience and focusing that they have for the day, then when they get to math and language arts, they're not going to be there with you. And that's the more important part. Those are the foundational things. So definitely go by your children for the subjects that you decide to do together. All 5-year-olds shouldn't be required, as far as homeschooling goes, shouldn't be required to do the exact same thing, because they're not all there. I don't think that my son at age 5, I wasn't doing science units and history units with him at that time. And truthfully, I do not think that he would have. I think if he had done the morning time type thing at age 5, he would have loved it and been interested in it. But I think that it would have been too long for me to expect him to do that and then turn around and, you know, take an hour break, maybe. Like my daughter usually is maybe 30 minutes to an hour break, and then we go into her other subjects. I think it would have zapped him, and I think that it would have been a battle to get him to finish like those core subjects. So take into consideration your own child. Don't you know, compare and look at what someone else is doing or what someone else's child is doing and think, well, their kid's my kid's age and they're doing this, this, and this, and my kid should be doing it too, because all kids are different and you can't always require the same thing. My daughter definitely is able to sit still a little longer than my son would have aged at the same age. Not that she sits still perfectly. If you've watched our day in the life videos, you'll see that she's wiggly and she's coloring and cutting and gluing and folding paper sometimes, you know, while she's listening, which is fine. But yeah, just have different expectations for different children. Don't expect that all kids are going to be able to do the exact same thing, and rotate through those subjects. Do not try to do every single day language arts, handwriting, math, you know, history, science, read aloud picture books and novels and board games, and do not try to do all the things every day. I mean, unless you've really got tons more energy than I have. I definitely could not do all the things all the days. So that's my opinion. I hope that helps. I don't mean to sound bossy. I'm trying to sound helpful because it's tempting sometimes to stretch yourself so thin that you are just spent by the end of the day. So that's my advice on that. I hope that helps. I hope that kind of answers the question that I've had about that from a few people. I will talk to you soon. Bye.